And I'll talk about this more later.
Oh, yeah.
That scares the shit out of me.
Me too, brother.
All right? This is where I want everyone to practice their organized religion freely. And again, most people use that for a great thing and get inner peace, and I think that's awesome. But when war decisions, as they unfortunately have always been made, are being made on the basis of betting that you're right about the afterlife, which if there's one thing we all have fucking in common besides the fact that we're going to die, it's that we don't know what happens when we do. But you're going to bet on that with people's lives here on this earth? Fuck that, and fuck you. Now, Deef, now that we got that out of the way, my favorite, and I say this seriously, my favorite performer of all time came out of retirement involuntarily this past week. And that is not an endorsement of this person as a person. In fact, if there is a hell, he's on a one-way trip there. But I am telling you, there is no greater show on earth than William Jefferson Clinton.
Yep.
Because this is a man who, even with his shaking, I don't know, pre-Parkinson's old man fucking charm that he still has on, he says things in a way and in a delivery and in a physical act to the point that, yes, we know it's a complete lie. It's a verifiable lie. But you believe that he believes it.
Yeah.
And God damn it, he does. So first of all, I do actually have to say this because last week there was something I didn't know. And I said it, and we're always going to be fair. I'm going to correct the record because Hillary actually pointed this out because both Hillary and Bill were deposed this week by the House GOP at their home in Chappaqua to go through their ties to Jeffrey Epstein. But I had said it was very disappointing to me that elites like Wexner and the Clintons were getting to do their depositions on their turf. Now, I still haven't checked out the Wexner thing and the backstory there, but I can speak on the Clintons. The Clintons wanted to do this in D.C., and it was actually James Comer from the Republican Party who said, no, you're going to do it behind closed doors in Chappaqua at your house. And so Hillary complained about that immediately after the deposition publicly. And I actually was like, you know what? Yeah, she's right. I would have rather seen this done in D.C. just like everyone else too. But that was a decision of the opposing party. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. They should have to face the music just like Pam Bondi did, just like all these people do and should. Obviously, they're looking to call Bill Gates and all these different people now, Sarah Kellen, like before the committee over, I guess, like April, May, and June. We're hearing that. I guess like more to come on the confirmations, but like they're going to go in front of the public right now as it stands. These guys should go in front of them too, but it was apparently not the Clintons' decision for once. There was also, by the way, before I get into some of the videos to break this down, Thief, there was a story in the Atlantic that gave a behind the scenes. And, you know, I read everything. Obviously, there is left and right bias depending on any publication you're reading. And there's so much information floating around about this case that anything you do have to take with a grain of salt where it's not proven by a fucking EFA and a bunch of numbers document in justice.gov. Okay, so let's just say it out front. But this article looked into the backstory of how this came to be, like this story going public and going through Congress via Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna. And I've said it multiple times now, you know, because obviously the Trump administration is in power. Trump is involved with the story because he knew Jeffrey Epstein and the cover-up's been gross. But, you know, once again, give the Democrats zero credit here. All of their administrations have covered this up, starting with the Clintons, who were fucking a part of it. All of their congressmen and senators have covered this up for years. This story actually, again, from the Atlantic, which is more of a left-leaning outlet, reported literally what their calculation was behind the scenes. Ro Khanna was being told not to do it by people because he would appear as a conspiracy theorist. And to his credit, he was like, fuck that. It's not a conspiracy. It's real. This guy existed. He raped a lot of kids and no one's answered for it. They got to answer for it. So credit to him. Obviously, Thomas Massie did the same thing, and they cover that in this story. Thomas Massie coming from the right side. But when it talked about Like, it was showing all the resistance Massey got in the Republican Party, which was really gross, but we've already kind of outlined that, so I don't need to go into that again. When it talked about the Democrats, though, all the older Democrats were against doing anything about it and wrote it off as conspiracy crap, which, very cold take, guys. The younger Democrats, who are less connected to Clinton, in fact, not connected at all, only got on board when they saw that internal polling showed that it would be a popular thing to do, which is just such a fucking, that's what they reported in the piece. If that's not such a fucking indictment on Washington, D.C., that's why when you see guys like Ted Lieu, who lies like a mattress every time he opens his fucking whore mouth, when you see a guy like that getting W's here because he gets to read from a document that already has the answer for him and it's politically expedient for him to do so, fuck him. I'll look at the information because unfortunately sometimes he's reading the information, sometimes it's actually real. But we're not giving these people credit. You don't get to cover things up for 3 decades, 4 decades, whatever it's been, and then be like, oh, well, now we're doing it. No, it's just expedient politically now for you to do it. And I just found that story, again, if true, it's from a lot of reports from sources on the inside, so I encourage you guys to go read it yourself and make your own conclusions. But I found that story particularly stomach-turning, and just another example of why when I have to drive anywhere within the area code of Washington, D.C., I make sure the navigator takes me on the roads that go around it. Fucking hate that place. No disrespect to the people that live there. Yeah. I'm sure you like it.
It's all right.
You won't find me there very much. Okay? I think I've been there like twice in my life. That's 2 times too many.
Yeah, it's all right. It's DC, you're not.
Don't do that, Deef. You know you hate it.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I've only been there once or twice. It ain't nothing special. You're not missing much.
Okay. Can you pull up the first video? We need no sound.
This is a good video.
And make it full screen. This is just all time. Which, stuff. By the way, put it full screen and keep it on pause. We gotta look
at the first frame.
Yeah, we gotta look at the optics here. So real quick before I go into this video, you see the woman to the right there?
We know her.
You know what her name is?
Cheryl
Mills. Cheryl Mills was basically like Hillary Clinton's chief of staff when she was Secretary of State. She was Bill Clinton's attorney back in the impeachment days. She'd been around them forever. Let's X out of the full screen for a second. We're going to hold that for a second. I know you're fucking ready to roll. But, you would think, you would just think, you would even give the Clintons like this grace of credit that like they would think about this ahead of time. If you're going to go do subpoenaed testimony on your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein that includes 25 to 27 flights, a lot of hot tubs, places around the world, women in pictures with you, including some who are underage, and 17, 18 known trips into your White House through the back door. Not a good look. By the way, they helped fund the Clinton Initiative. We'll get to that in a minute. If you're going to do that and put on your performance, if you will, do you know how many great qualified lawyers someone like the Clintons could not only afford to hire because they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but they are connected to hire? You and I both know it's unlimited, okay? Yet they pick Cheryl Mills, who of all people, in addition to being at the middle of the fucking email scandal with Hillary, in addition to being at the middle of the Benghazi scandal with Hillary, in addition to being in the middle of the impeachment scandal, which involved a fucking blowjob in the Oval Office with a woman who was very, very young, more on that later, you would think that alone would be enough to be like, maybe we'll get someone else besides Cheryl to sit next to us on this camera. But it's worse than that. You got the email, Deef?
Yeah, I'm pulling it.
Cheryl Mills... I sent it to you in text. Okay. Cheryl Mills is in the Epstein files. Like, you literally can't make this shit up. She is in the Epstein files talking with her girl, Ghislaine Maxwell, and going back and forth. The other one, Steve, to actually show the emails. There were 3 I sent you. But she's going back and forth with Ghislaine Maxwell, who is at the very middle of the testimony they're doing. He has that up on the screen right now. So what is the first one? To Cheryl Mills from GMAX. Hey, I'm currently in my bikini in Palm Beach. I'm trying not to make you jealous or anything. Carol is great. Actually, she may be gone for too long as she may come to work well if my deal goes through. I'm not dumb. It took me so long to make one girlfriend. I'm not prepared to lose her. And Cheryl goes, what did she respond? Is today really your birthday? It's your birthday of one of my greatest friends, and it would not at all be surprising that you shared it. So happy birthday, darling. I'll have to do a bit of thinking. That's from Cheryl, right? Mm-hmm. Hate for you being in Palm Beach. If it weren't your birthday, I'll catch you. I'll call you what you really are for being there. I don't even know what that means. But basically, they're going back and forth as friends. So you would think the Clintons would be like, Cheryl, sit this one out. We'll just hire any other fucking attorney from New York City. And then Cheryl Mills, here's another email Deef just pulled up. Cheryl Mills, subject, you are unbelievable, to what appears to be Ghislaine Maxwell. Actually, I don't want to say that because this one's redacted. This is a separate email. But it is to someone redacted, which is interesting. But Cheryl Mills says, only you can take a picture that makes me look good. Thank you. I love you, XO. Not ideal. Not ideal to have her in there for sure. But let's go back to the video I blue balls to everyone with Deef. This is William Jefferson Clinton with his old man charm being handed pictures. Being handed pictures with Jeffrey Epstein from over the years. And I love how, now because he's older and has, a lot of health problems, especially his mouth. So he's got
the old man glasses.
He's got the
glasses.
Yep. But play this. I tweeted this out the other night. And then a lot of people were tweeting it out. A little plagiarism going on there. But she tries to take it away from him and goes, don't look at this, Bill. And he's like, nah, give it back. Give it back. Motherfucker is reminiscing on the good old days. He is looking at this going, oh my God, that was a great time out in Bahrain. I remember Jeffrey, we were getting after it. Wow, look at that. And he crosses his arms. Just like, what a memory. That's good right there, Deef. So, I will say this about Bill Clinton. If there's one person who has ever given absolutely zero fucks, besides Donald J. Trump, it's Bill Clinton. These are two guys in that respect, two peas in a pod. But Bill Clinton also said something really interesting about his relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell that is tying right into the supra-government idea. It is the second link there. You know what one I'm talking about, Deef. Let's pull that up and allow President Clinton to do the talking on it. Full screener. Boom. Boom.
Was her friend, not Epstein's friend. Is that accurate?
I'd say that it was accurate to say that I felt closer to her than to him.
To Ghislaine.
And for the record, why was that?
Because I had seen her more and because she was very good friends with Evelyn Rothschild and his wife Lynn, whom I knew and was in regular touch with.
She stated that President Clinton was her.
So there's also that pause at the end where he stares him down, whom I knew and was in regular touch with. Former United States president who also presided over probably to this point, economically, socially, culturally, regardless of whether he was the reason for this or not. That's not what I'm saying. But he presided over the 1990s, which I would say was probably the best time in American history to this point. Being in regular touch with Evelyn de Rothschild and saying it so openly, just as we saw Wexner say that so openly, just as we have seen them so openly hiring one fixer named Jeffrey Epstein to do their bidding around the world and tell people like Peter Thiel that he works for them, and then he's correct in saying that. I'm referring to Jeffrey Epstein's email to Peter Thiel in 2016 where he specifically says that. It doesn't exactly help the tamp down the conspiracy theories, if you will, about bankers' wars and things like that. It's just very interesting to see a name of a prominent banking family that we know the history of, that people generally never fucking say out loud, people who operate in the shadows. It's very interesting to see it actually unforcibly, explicitly mentioned by such powerful people on camera left and right recently. Les Wexner did not have to bring them up in his deposition. He brought them up personally when they were asking him about why he hired Jeffrey Epstein. He mentioned that he spoke to, I forget which Rothschild it was. It might have been Evelyn, actually.
David?
No, it might have been Evelyn, but don't quote me on that, which is exactly who Clinton just said. That's pretty interesting. And he mentioned how, he said Ellie de Rothschild. So I think that's the same person, and he volunteered that information. Clinton just volunteered. He didn't have to say that, but he did. That's fascinating to me. Very fascinating to me. You see like them, you know what, Deef?
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Let's take a look at this one. Because he got caught on this one. Pause it, and let's get volume before we start it so we can get the full question. All right, volume's there, full screen, boom, go.
The witnesses who testified in the Epstein cases that Epstein said, you quote, like them young. Why would Epstein say that about you?
Are you asking his opinion?
Look at the mouth.
You're asking him to think about why Mr.Epstein would say
Correct.
something about him?
Why would Epstein say that
So
about
she's
the
asking
president?
you to try to be in Mr. Epstein's mind and guess at what Mr. Epstein would have thought about.
First of
Clinton
all,
likes them young, referring to girls.
that's not true.
What's not true?
That I have any interest in underage,
I didn't say underage. I said young.
but it's still not true.
Is an intern young?
Yes,
Okay.
at my age, anybody younger than I am.
Did you
is
know
young.
Jeffrey Epstein instructed a witness to deny you were ever on his island?
He didn't have to since I was never there.
Did you ever travel to Zorro Ranch?
Is that the one in New Mexico?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Have you ever flown on
looked
anyone
away.
else's private jet 26 times or more for overseas trips?
I have flown as many miles on other jets, but never with as many stops.
He knows the
How
miles.
many other people's planes have you used, like Epstein 26 times or miles, etc.?
I don't know. I did with Steve Bing, who's now deceased, and probably with 4 or 5 others.
Okay.
Interesting.
So maybe about a half dozen billionaires total. So how many dinners did you have with
at that
Ghislaine
shake.
Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein in attendance?
She's asking to the best of your recollection.
I have no idea.
Okay. Did you
There
ever
were too
discuss
many.
sexual misconduct allegations made against you with Epstein or Maxwell?
Never.
Did Epstein or Maxwell ever offer to help manage or silence women who made sexual misconduct allegations against you?
No.
Did Epstein or Maxwell ever offer financial support directly or indirectly
locked
to
in.
legal defense funds related to impeachment proceedings or civil actions against you?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you think a young girl massaging a president is unusual?
So are you asking his opinion?
Well, he
You're
was
asking his
massaged by a
opinion?
young woman. I'm asking if he thinks it's unusual that a president, sitting president of the United States, leader of the free world, that
So I'm
it's
sorry,
unusual
are
a
you
young woman
speaking
would be.
to, are you talking to the instance of the
Yes, is it unusual that
the
a young
back
woman would be
massage that
massaging
occurred while he was not president? I'm just trying to understand. You said a president of the United States.
former president?
Thank you. Just trying to make sure we're correcting the
Are you
time frame.
filibustering?
No, I don't need
Okay.
to. I'm actually trying to make
I
sure
think
that
I'm
as
pretty
you,
clear. He said he
you
was a
said he
young-
was a sitting president.
Excuse me, could we just please go one at a time? Thank you.
You said a sitting president. I want you to be clear so that when he answers
former
you,
sitting
the
president. How
record
do
is
you want
clear.
to do it? Is it unusual?
I have no idea if it's unusual.
Objection calls for speculation.
I figured. Did you ever think that all these women around Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell was odd, unusual, weird, or creepy?
There weren't all that many around when I was there.
How many would you say is not all that many?
I think on this big plane that was working long hours, having 2 to 4 people on there, I thought was, as far as I knew, they were all helping.
Flight attendants in tank tops and jeans, right?
No,
Do you believe you were a victim of a Jeffrey Epstein intel operation? Do you think that you might have
see
been
his forehead
caught up
change
in
there?
some of what he was maybe potentially doing?
Excuse me, Congressman, which question are you asking?
I'm asking
Intel
if the
operation?
First of all, I don't
some type of intel operation. I'm just curious because it's been speculated on today and yesterday
understand.
that he may have been an intel asset. Do you think, perhaps knowing what we know now, the proclivity of it all, that he may have been targeting you as part of an intel operation?
I doubt it.
In 2019,
right there. That's good.
you stated after.
That's you could see. So when he was asked the intel question there at the end, at the beginning of that little part, his whole forehead shifted when she asked him if he had been a target. And then when he said, "I doubt it," and again, I'm not a body language expert, but these are some pretty common ones spitting out. And I'd love to get some of the body language people on YouTube to break this down. But when he said, "I doubt it," right there, he squinted his eyes real tight. Now, at the beginning of that clip, when he's asked if he likes him young and then gets wrapped around the Lewinsky right away, which he should have seen that one coming. Old Bill would have seen that one coming, but older Bill doesn't. You could see the fucking nervousness setting in, and he was getting very uncomfortable. And then he locked the fuck in. And Cheryl came in, and he was answering things real confident with that little sly look up.
Came in like his auntie.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Guy like him, he can lie like a mattress and really get himself into a mind state where he's like, all right, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to believe it. And that's what it is.
Where do you think they did that in their house?
You know, I was wondering that. It's like
Got the microphones and everything.
It's got the grand dais there.
What do you think goes through his head as they're setting up production? Like as he's like in his robe having a coffee and they're setting the table and the lights and the audio. And he's just like, fuck, they're going to try and fry me in here.
Showtime. You look mighty fine.
Yeah, it makes a sly comment.
Interns.
Yeah. He's just a dog.
Man. And if we got to play the Mark Middleton thing. So Mark Middleton is the White House aide who was directly connected to many of the visits of Jeffrey Epstein in the White House, who unalived himself by hanging himself. I'm not laughing at the fact that he's dead. I'm laughing at the circumstances. Believe it was, we're going to find out in the clip in a second, but hanging himself from a tree while simultaneously taking a shotgun to his chest, which,
wow.
I mean, what an acrobatic way to leave this earth, if I may say so myself. Let's play this right here, Deef. Because, like, man, oh, man.
Are you aware that Mr. Middleton committed suicide
Yes, I
in
am.
2022? He was found dead at Hefner Ranch, approximately 30 miles from his home in Little Rock. He was discovered hanging from a tree by an extension cord around his neck with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the chest. So he was shot and hung.
He's like, yeah, he nods. Yes.
Do you have any information that leads you to suspect that he did something other than commit suicide?
No.
Okay.
Do you have any concerns that
he wanted to say something
this
else.
was in relation to his knowledge or relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, given the date?
But the president has
Of the
already
suicide?
testified to the fact that he was unaware that Mr. Epstein was visiting the White House. So are you asking him then as to what he would have known?
I'm asking, when you heard about the death, knowing about the things that have been, at this point, it's all over the news, seeing that he has committed suicide. Have you ever had any conversations with people about whether or not that there's any relationship between the two?
Oh, no. No one's ever suggested it to me.
Okay. Thank you.
Go to Google, motherfucker. Yeah, that was, I mean, they really came with hardballs. And like we were listening to Nancy Mace earlier when she was questioning him, she didn't stutter once. I mean, I was very impressed with how on the ball a lot of the footage I heard was from the people interviewing him. And yeah, something like that should be brought up. People joke about the Clinton body count, but people die around them, and they die in very weird circumstances, including that one, I think, being the weirdest. Like, oh yeah, he hung himself with an extension cord and shot himself in the chest. Sure, that's logical. But there is another subplot that has happened over the past couple of weeks with Bill Clinton that is completely inexplicable to me, and it's very suspicious, and it involves Donald Trump. Donald Trump and Bill Clinton, we know were friends at one point. We know they're both dogs. You know, it's not illegal to be a dog, but it's certainly illegal to be a dog if it's around underage women. So that's
around puppies.
Yeah.
Understand? You could be a dog around some other dogs, but not around them puppies. Sorry. All right, let's bring it back, folks. Reel it back in.
Anyway, that was
good though.
It was
pretty good.
It was good. It was good. It's fun because like you gotta have fun in life, even when things are very, very bad. But it is what it is. That said, Donald Trump and Bill Clinton could not possibly be friends after Trump ran for president, because Trump decided immediately upon running in 2015 to turn his guns on Hillary and use those guns also, and I mean that figuratively, not literally, to go after Bill. I mean, when Trump was even late in the campaign, when he was caught with the grab 'em tape, his apology video 15 seconds in said, "Yeah, I apologize, it's so bad, but Bill Clinton raped people. He's horrible." And if you remember, that was a Friday night. A couple nights after that was a Sunday where it was the second presidential debate. This is October 2016. I think that debate was like October 9th. And Donald Trump, showman that he is, shocked the world by holding a press conference unannounced right before the debate, which was going to be in an intimate setting where he would be about 10 feet from Bill Clinton, sitting right there supporting his wife. Business partner, I should probably say. But, you know, Donald Trump held a press conference with all the women who had publicly accused Bill Clinton of rape in the past. And I've never seen anything like that in my life. And then he goes in to the debate and he has to apologize at the beginning. This is the one where he's like standing behind Hillary, like staring down at her. And it gets to him and he's doing his like kind of half-ass apology. And then he goes, "But Bill Clinton," and I think he even pointed, "Bill Clinton raped women." And there's an image of Clinton. I don't know if we can pull it up, Dave, but Clinton-Trump debate eyes. There's an image of him staring back like death itself that Donald Trump accused him of that on international television in the biggest stakes debate in the world. And I said, yeah, that's it right there. Bill with his daughter. They were both sitting right there. And he's just staring at Trump like he just crossed a Rubicon that is beyond anything he had ever imagined. And I say that because you are never going to fucking be friends with someone like that under any circumstances ever for the rest of eternity, let alone your time here on Earth. I think we can all agree on that. Any friendship that may or may not have still existed, and it definitely didn't still exist at that point, is dead, gone, finished, you're done. And yet a very interesting subplot has happened here where out of nowhere, after over a decade of shredding the Clintons inside and out, Donald Trump went on camera 2 weeks ago in some interview with someone, I don't remember who, and he was asked about Bill Clinton, and he goes, "You know, I still like Bill Clinton. I don't like everyone going after him." I'm paraphrasing right here, but he said, "I still like Bill Clinton." Like, what the fuck? What do you mean you still like Bill Clinton? The guy you called a rapist on international TV and held a press conference with all the women that have accused him? Like, no, you don't. I'm not even saying you're wrong about that either. But like, you're not friends with him. So it's also interesting that when Bill and Hill Dog are ready to go down with the ship and take everyone with them, including Trump, that's where the Tim Dillon song comes in. Mm-hmm. We fed her to the shark. Right? You know what? World's ending, our world's ending, might as well tear it all down with us, including Donald. Like, that's our last act. You would think that he'd take the chance to do that. Defund the tape.
I hate this, but because I don't believe I should inject anything. But I do not want to leave the impression, but since there was no follow-up question, the president
Trump
never, this is 20-something years ago, never said anything to me to make me think he was involved in anything improper with regard to Epstein either. He just didn't.
All right, right there.
That's the truth.
Wait, leave it.
As I said earlier, the only conversation I had with President Trump about this was in the early 2000s. And I have no information that he did anything wrong. I just want it all out there. I want everybody to get it all out there.
Look at him holding his arm, too.
See where we are.
Okay. He said the first part right there, especially the second part, I can't confirm this, but because that was from a later point, like it cut off halfway and went to a later point from the deposition. But the first one, he interjected that. It was voluntary. He was not asked about that. But he wanted to go on record and say he had no information that Donald Trump could have possibly been attached to Jeffrey Epstein based on what he knew. So you have two guys who have publicly had beef to the nth degree that makes Diddy and 50 Cent look like child's play. That's actually that's a bad way to put it. But you know what I mean. Sorry, it is. And now they're both going out of their way to say the other guy's all right. If you are not sketched out by that or suspicious of that, yeah, I don't know what's stuck in your eyes or your ears. Unclog them. That was the craziest thing that happened because of what Trump said a couple weeks ago. That dynamic is insane. Now that's a lot of the highlights of Bill. There was another thing, like I'm not going to get too deep into this, but it's confirmed on Gmail through the Justice Department drops of the Epstein files. But like at one point, Epstein was trying to help Clinton, fix up his SEO online and get negative stories taken out about him, which, just shows you the closeness of the relationship. And also it's in the emails where Ghislaine Maxwell talks about how she helped found the Clinton Global Initiative, talking about it very flippantly. That's confirmed as well. And we also have the picture. Can we pull it up, Deef? It's right there under Hillary of Ghislaine at the Chelsea Clinton wedding, daughter of the Clintons. She's just leaning right over, looking at Bill, taking Chelsea down the aisle. And of course, as Hillary's going to put it, had no idea she was there. So she testified that she had no relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell. I believe she called Ghislaine Maxwell a +1, and she wouldn't have known who the +1 is. And then Twitter investigators found out that she would have known who the +1 was at that wedding based on previous public comments, right? Deef, you saw that as well. I don't want to get too caught in the fucking, cat fight with that, but very clear that was a lie under oath. Wait, one more Bill Clinton thing. You see the one where it says, "Have you ever lied?"
Yeah.
This is a 9-second clip. Just pull this up. So Bill Clinton is asked the following on camera about whether or not he has ever lied under oath. We're in a deposition. Here we go.
First question I have for you, Mr. President. Have you ever lied in a deposition?
No.
Have you ever lied while under oath?
No.
Okay, so he was quite literally impeached for doing that. So that is perjury right there. But that's what they do. They just lie. And so Hillary Clinton testifying that she never knew Ghislaine Maxwell, also testifying that she never knew Jeffrey Epstein when Jeffrey Epstein is in the emails talking about her, talking about what she looks like in person and stuff, which she was actually flattered when she heard that part. I don't know if you saw that, Deep. She's like, I won't argue with that when he said I look better in person, which would imply he's fucking seen her a bunch in person. He is being invited to events that are in the emails that are money fundraisers for Hillary Clinton, and there are all kinds of reports, unverified at this point, that the Clintons spent a lot of time at Zorro Ranch, and you heard in an earlier video Bill Clinton explicitly deny. He was like, the one in New Mexico? Nope, never been there. Yeah. So again, we got this all on record now, and it's going to be interesting to see if evidence comes out that is directly against what they're saying, which would mean that they would be charged with perjury. And it's open to the American people because we have now all seen this, and you would think that'd be a pretty slam dunk case to be able to put through. But there's two clips of Hillary I want to go through real quick. Before I say that, Lauren Boebert took a picture of Hillary secretly in the deposition, and Hillary flipped out about it on camera. I'm not going to play the clip because we're not going to have time to do that. But like Hillary had a right to flip out about that. Like she did it to send it to fucking Benny Johnson to get social media clout and whatever. And this was, the Republicans are the ones who asked for the private hearing. So like, it's just when politicians are trying to use their little spot for social media clout, like we're doing something wrong here. And you got to call that out. That was just fucking stupid. I mean, I appreciated getting the picture selfishly, but like you're not helping the situation doing that. But there's a video where she's asked about Anthony Weiner in the last 50 seconds. Oh, yes. It's a long video. I particularly want to get to like 3. Yep, right there. Let's do it.
My list. That's okay. We're asking all sorts of things here.
You certainly are. You certainly are.
We're just trying to get the truth out to the American people.
Well, that
and
would
give
be
some clarity.
very helpful.
Are you aware of any files that were on Anthony Weiner's laptop in a folder that was titled insurance, life insurance, with a zip file titled frazzled?
This is way outside the
chairman's
scope.
ruling.
This is way
within the
outside
scope. Is this within the scope, Mr.
If
Chairman?
the chairman rules that it's not within the scope.
Mr. Chairman, based on what you said in the public hearing, is this within the scope?
We can go off the record for a moment.
Mr. Chairman, is this within the scope?
We'll
Go off the record and can talk.
Look at those eyes, bro. So no proof of anything there, but we have had many reports about the contents of Anthony Weiner's laptop. And obviously Anthony Weiner was married to Huma Abedin, who was and still is Hillary Clinton's right hand. She's now married to Alex Soros. That's not weird at all. And, he's definitely not playing for her team either. It's just,
Oh, man.
just saying. But that was, I mean, you see her whole body fucking contort, and she came up and got in it like she was ready to fight. And then those eyes before that off record could fucking kill. So it'll be interesting to see if that string gets pulled on more, because there have been some horrific reports about what's on there. Now, there's a lot of stuff that I have outlined that we're going to do next week instead, because there's one thing I want to hit before Iran, and talking about that is important, because as I said at the outset, they will do anything to distract from things like this. This affects everyone in government, bureaucracy. Everyone's a strong word. It affects many powerful people in government, bureaucracy, industry, and society at large, including the society of the supra-government that you don't see. And very conveniently, since the strikes in Iran that began late Friday night, early Saturday morning, we have seen the DOJ verifying deleted files. In fact, I believe, Deep, they confirmed I have a link right there where the DOJ confirmed it themselves. DOJ confirms 47,635 Epstein files have been removed per the Independent, and that is from March 4th, in the middle of all this Iran hysteria.
That's great.
And they're going to continue to do this, and they're already in violation of federal law for withholding the final 3 million documents, which include a lot between the years of 1999 and 2001. That's not weird at all.
Oh, but we got some new ones.
Yeah, and then what'd they do? They're releasing 47,000 more withheld Jeffrey Epstein documents by the end of the week. Similar number, by the way. It's almost like they're trying to zero-sum game it.
Take and give.
Yeah, we'll take the ones we don't want out there, which, by the way, the public has probably screenshotted a lot of that, so too late, people. Just like they got Howard Lutnick, our friend, pictured on the island. They tried to get that one down, but J-Mail still had it. Can we Google Lutnick Island picture?
Oh,
God, I love this guy. God, I love this guy. You can't even make this stuff up. But this is what they're going to do. If we take our eye off the ball, this is what we're going to do. On this show, we are going to cover current events. We are going to go through it. That is the format that we're doing with the solo shows. And obviously, it happens sometimes with the guest shows. It's been happening more than usual recently because the world's so crazy, where we literally do a current event and cover it. And then I do a lot of podcasts that are stories and all different types of topics and having fun. Like, that's what it is. But we will continue to cover this story no matter what's going on, in addition to other things, because if we don't, that's what they want. So as we get information, we will do it, because they're going to continue to try to cover this up. And there is Howard on the fucking island. That does appear to be his sons next to him on the left. I'm going to guess the guy on the right, I don't know this. I don't know either of these things, but people out there maybe can verify, is perhaps the male from the other couple he mentioned in that famous, now infamous 2012 email to Jeffrey Epstein talking about visiting the island. And Twitter sleuths were able to pinpoint the fact that in this picture off camera, they are standing right next to the temple, the famous Epstein Island temple. And so the DOJ tried to take this down in the middle of all this Iran hysteria, by the way, like right in the build up to it. And luckily J-Mail existed and still had it, but they are going to continue to do this, just like the FBI opened a file on Epstein in 1991 and closed it in 1993. We found that out from the files, right conveniently when Bill Clinton got into office, by the way, and then never opened a case on him for another 12 years when he was finally investigated. They do all this right in front of you, and they're going to continue to do it if you accept it and allow it to happen. I will not, but I'm one fucking pebble on the water out here in YouTube. I can control what I can control, but that ain't much. It's going to require everyone else out there taking part in not letting something like this die and continuing to report on the information as we get it, which comes out like a log flume every day. Even though we're still missing so many documents that they haven't released illegally. And even though many things are still redacted illegally, including stuff that is beyond what Ro Khanna was able to confirm publicly was redacted when he listed some of the names, like we still have a treasure trove worth of information to piece together and put together with what we have been giving, and we have to continue to do that. So there are some people doing amazing, amazing work on Twitter, and I'm following a lot of it. I am going to be having Henry Abbott in here, by the way. Before I get to this next point, I want to say this. Henry Abbott is the guy that I've shouted out many times on the show for years, who is an NBA reporter who basically fell down a rabbit hole back in 2021 when he just wanted to investigate the links between Apollo Global, who had part of the ownership of like 2 or 3 different NBA franchises at the time, and their connections to Jeffrey Epstein. It turned into this 21-chapter odyssey on his blog True Hoop that effectively laid out the ties of Epstein going all the way back to the fucking Treaty of Versailles. And I've cited the work so many times over the years because it's incredible, but Henry finally actually heard it on the podcast with John Kiriakou and was really excited. So I finally got to talk with him. Great guy. He's going to be coming on, and we will discuss all that work and try to open up some loops so that you guys out there can work with the information that he's put together, because he also told me this. I hope he's okay with me saying this, but he's going back to the case. Look at some stuff. So
let's go.
Yeah, he just went right. The dude basically like hit a walk-off home run with the Epstein thing and then went back to reporting about the NBA.
He's just like cracking his fingers, like shit.
And
we
now
got
he's like,
work to do.
Here we go.
Here we go again.
Here we go again. But
that's awesome.
That's going to be cool. I'm very much looking forward to it. But let's get to this Iran war. That is the word our president is using, and what's going on here, because once again, this is a prime example of many things being true at the same time. Now, you guys have heard me talk about how much I really do take it seriously to be as journalistically balanced as possible. We obviously represent all viewpoints in this studio. There's no greater example than literally having Roya Hakakian back-to-back with Ian Carroll in episodes 307 and 308. You got the very pro-Israel and very against Israel back-to-back. Like, that is how I do my show as best I can. I'm not perfect, but I do take that part seriously, and I will continue to do that. There is a picture, though, in my studio up there. If you can hit camera 5 for a second, Deef. I don't know if people can see it. But it's up. If you're looking at me on camera 5's off. Okay. Well, there's a picture up there behind me that was in my very first studio in my parents' house as well. That shows a picture of Walter Cronkite. And by the way, Walter Cronkite took a fucking drive-by hitting the Epstein files. There's a picture of him talking with Jeffrey Epstein, which was really sad. But he was old. There's no emails regarding him or anything like that. So we're gonna hope everything's okay there. That said, Walter Cronkite, for people who don't know, is the most famous newscaster to ever live. He is the man who famously delivered the glasses off remark with the broken voice, President Kennedy has died, and, told the world that the president had been assassinated officially back in 1963. But there was actually something I learned about in history class, I think in high school. Might have been middle school, but it was definitely by high school, that always stuck with me about a very difficult decision that Cronkite made. And that was, as he was reporting on the Vietnam War, eventually he started going over to Vietnam, and he saw the war for what it was, a farce and a catastrophe with corruption and all kinds of problems and an unjust war. And the evidence mounted so significantly that it got to a point to where he said there's no case for the other side. It's gone. This is what it is. And I don't even think he got to the whole fact that the Gulf of Tonkin was a false flag. He didn't even know that, I'm pretty sure, at the time. But everything else, he could see what it was. And he made a very difficult decision that I think about a lot. And that is, as a man who had been purely the news, literally in just a great voice and delivery, deliver what had happened that day without any words or interjection of opinions. This is a man who was around for the dawn of news on TV when there were 2 or 3 fucking channels. He made a decision on his reports from Vietnam to begin actually, with evidence, clearly interjecting some sort of opinion, if you will, based on that evidence that the war was unjust and wrong. And he helped get that story to the American people, who already had a huge problem with the war, but to get it over the top eventually, such that the war finally ended. And I think about this a lot because he made a very difficult slippery slope decision that I believe was the right decision, but it opened the door for things like 20 plus years later, CNN and Fox and things that call themselves news, but are really just narrative-driven bullshit. It allowed them to be born and hide behind the word news while having clear opinions that brainwash the American people in either direction. And so I've always thought about that a lot, and I knew at some point in my career there could be a moment, not as dramatic as fucking Walter Cronkite being on the ground in Vietnam. Let's not, have delusions of grandeur here, but there could be some moments where certain stories get to a point to where you have to say things based on evidence that are clearly reality, regardless of where that lands, and people are going to take it how they take it. And so I will refer to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and the President of the United States, Donald Trump, in particularly the first 2, though, explicitly. The third one, Donald Trump, a little more implicitly, but that's being nice. It was pretty much explicit, saying this week that the reason the United States attacked Iran is because Israel had told them, we are going in first to attack, fuck you, we're doing it, which was going to put a bullseye on United States bases and therefore our troops and our assets, and the United States therefore felt forced to attack. I say that because the evidence is clear, and it's always been clear, that this is Israel's war. This is not our own war. There is no good evidence to the contrary. Take people like Benjamin Netanyahu at their word. Benjamin Netanyahu has been bloodthirstily yearning for this. Direct quote on the yearning part. He didn't say bloodthirsty, but he said yearning. For over 40 years. He has wanted to invade Iran for over 40 years. You can run the tape of him saying Iran is a year or a week away from a nuclear bomb for the last 30 plus years. You can run the tape of him testifying in 2002 that says, you must attack Iraq and then you must attack Iran. They are developing nuclear weapons and they will be a threat to America and the world order moving forward. He's been saying this forever. And he told our president, fuck you, we're going. He told him that at the same time that our president and everyone, let's not single out Trump here, we've been listing off a bunch of people over the past several weeks, are facing the most existential crisis of the elite class in the history of probably America with these Epstein files, which implicate Israel. They certainly implicate the CIA as well, to be clear, but Jeffrey Epstein was working with Mossad. And he was working with them in a dominant capacity. I will say that. I still believe that in the evidence that he was most dominantly working with Mossad over CIA. It's very clear he was working with CIA. It's very clear that that may go back longer than I first thought, for sure. And we will continue to investigate all those loops. But this is a man who was born in America, rose up in a very weird version of the American dream, certainly had a lot of things suspiciously handed to him in this country, and worked against its interests with a foreign nation that claims at all times to be our greatest ally, that pays 93 of our 100 senators lobbying money to say those exact words, sends them over to fucking Israel to talk about how we need to protect our greatest ally at all fucking costs, and goes to primary people like Thomas Massie when they dare step out of line and say otherwise. They've done it again and again and again. Of course, I'm talking about AIPAC. There's also the Republican Jewish Coalition. And I say that because all of these organizations, unfortunately, give an awful name, an unfair name, to all Jewish people around the world. You have a radical section of them that I will refer to as like the Zionist Israeli government and their Zionist supporters around the world, which in some cases are Christians, in other cases are Jewish people, that then speak for the entire diaspora, which is completely unfair. And the madman campaign that they have led into this war is disgusting. Now, I said there's multiple thoughts to be held at the same time here, so we're going to hold them. I will not shed a tear over Ayatollah Khamenei being dead. This was an awful man. Iran is a nation of approximately 92 million people. They have lived under an iron fist for the last 47 years. They have been tortured, imprisoned, and killed by their government, which duped them into a revolution in 1979 with false promises that they changed on day one. And the IRGC is a horrible organization of people, and I have said it publicly a million times, and I will continue to say it. I strongly hope the Iranian people rise up and take them out of power. Now listen to how I said that. That's how I've always said it. Because the reality is the world is a very complicated place, and I feel things very viscerally, but there are dictators, there are tyrants, and there are innocent civilians who die. It is a horrible thing. That does not mean that foreign nations like us, the United States, are therefore in a position to make things better by going in and doing regime change. Gaddafi was a bad guy in Libya. Look what happened when we did that. Saddam Hussein was an awful guy in Iraq. I would argue ISIS was a lot worse. That's what came after. Regime changes cause chaos. They foment chaos. And in many ways, that's the point. That's what your intelligence operations do. That's what the CIA does. Let's not single out Mossad here. That's what CIA does. That's what Mossad does. At the very least, it's what factions of them do. And we are seeing it play out once again. And we are seeing it play out at the behest of a country that has wanted to use us, the Americans, on the front lines to fight their wars. And so I do hope the Iranian people overthrow their regime. And I hope it happens after we fucking pull our troops right the fuck out of there. As of the time of this recording, there are 6 confirmed deaths of American soldiers. You know how much I care about our military guys. You know how much reverence I treat them with when they come in here. I love these guys. And I will fully admit I take their opinions, I give their opinions way more leeway than anyone else because they've earned it. They've done something that I never did. They volunteered to go serve their country. Many of them, obviously, who are in here, fought on the front lines, lost friends. These are sacrifices that I have never understood and that I hold in the utmost highest regard. And so when I see some of those guys, including kids, there was a 20-year-old in there who was killed in a war that was completely unnecessary. Started on a lie. Iran does not have nuclear weapons. They're nowhere close to it. I'm disgusted by that when I see that. Again, I'd love the Iranian regime gone. There's a lot of other things at play here. They are partnered on oil. with China and Russia and other places. This is literally geographically and figuratively the center of the East-West conflict playing out right here. They are now looking at closing the Strait of Hormuz, probably saying that wrong, that, is going to cause massive economic implications. By the way, that's why we did Venezuela. They were just preparing for the oil right there. Funny how we invaded Venezuela like 2 days after Netanyahu's hanging out with Trump at Mar-a-Lago for New Year's.
Gas prices are still going up too.
Yeah. Yeah. And Trump was like, it'll be worth it to protect Israel. Listen, to see something from Israel's perspective, yes, Iran is in some ways a serious threat to them. They are not to the United States. Okay, we've seen it again and again. Paper tiger. They come out and they say death to America, death to Israel. They do all this stuff. And then when we hit them with anything, they don't do fuck all about it. Okay. We've seen it again. I mean, look at January 2020. We took out Qasem Soleimani. I remember getting reports behind the scenes about how up in arms people in the White House were that Trump did that. They thought it was so careless. And the Iranians blinked. They bombed a U.S. base or something. I don't even remember if we lost any people.
No, I'm pretty sure they bombed.
Check that
empty
deep. I don't want to
right?
mess that up, but you get the point. They ain't like that, bruh. And so the thing about Iran is that they're an enemy. They're horrible people. But they tell you they're your enemy. They don't hide it. They stand right outside your house. Not literally. They stand across the world looking at your house on a fucking screen and do their propaganda and say death to America. And I can appreciate that I know where they stand. Not excusing it. Think it's horrible. I know where they stand. They're a wolf. A wolf that don't got a lot of bite when it comes to us, but they're a wolf. On the contrary, when I see a country force all of our politicians to give hostage videos, basically, to say how much they love it and that they're our greatest ally, continually forcing us into wars that are not in our interest and costing our guys' lives at their behest, and blackmailing our people with things like the Epstein files, which also, again, CIA's got blame in that too. Let's not just point the finger at Israel. But when I see that, that to me is a wolf in sheep's clothing. They come to you and they tell you you're their friend. They walk in your front door. They eat dinner with you. Maybe they sit on your lap and let you pet them. They tell you it was a great meal. And then when they need to eat you, they eat you. And I'm seeing way too many patterns with that with the Israeli government. And I will say it that way. It's the Israeli government. I will never collectively hold people responsible for that. That's not what it is. We know a lot of the people in Israel don't support Netanyahu's government. And those are the hardliners. Those are the greater Israel people. But to see this play out as it is, you have to realize the world is based on power dynamics. All right? Iran, they ain't like that economically. I mean, we shut them off from the world. Scott Bessent bragged about all, Treasury Secretary bragged about all the new sanctions he put on him a few months ago or whatever it was, which forced the economy into turmoil. He bragged about sending their currency to basically zero, put the people in the streets, and then the regime, which is tyrannical, killed all the people. The regime deserves no exoneration for that, to be clear, but also, who's causing that and laughing about it? Does that sound like we're the good guys there? It doesn't to me.
No.
So you need to realize something like this has massive implications. Iran does not have nukes. Israel does. They're, of course, the only country that doesn't admit it. Used our stuff to get it in the 60s. Verified, NUMEC, look it up. But I don't appreciate the sheep clothing on the wolf. And there needs to be a serious conversation about the hijacking that the Israeli government is doing of not just our decision-making here, but of the Jewish people around the world. Because it makes me sick how uncomfortable it's getting for many of them, and I do not stand for that at all. And I will call that out. But I got no love for the Israeli government. And there's every piece of evidence to see that. Look no farther than the fact that this was reported, I believe, in Israeli outlets, American outlets. You know, obviously there's fog of war stuff, but the Israelis were spying on the Trump administration's communications with Iran, where they're trying to talk about peace. And Netanyahu called Trump, reportedly, to make sure he didn't negotiate peace. Fuck you. I'm not suicidal. I never have been. I love my life. Things are going great. I hope this war ends peacefully for all parties involved, including Israel, and I hope it ends quickly. And I hope new leadership can come in there, because I know a lot of their people want it, and I will support the Israeli people in getting new leadership over there, for sure. But it's on you guys, just like it's on the people of Iran to overthrow your government, it's on the Israeli people to look at doing that too. We'll close it there, and I'll see you guys next week.